Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome at today's webinar, Buying a Home in The Hague. Good to know today's webinar will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. So if you have any questions after the webinar, you can watch it back, or of course, you can reach out to us. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A. My colleague will join in a bit and will answer the questions during the webinar. And we also have some time at the end to discuss them. Yeah, what I said, welcome. My name is Rick. I am a buying manager at Expat Housing Network. I'm Dutch. I live in Rotterdam, and I'm the buying manager responsible for the region of South Holland, so Rotterdam, The Hague, and anything in between. At the moment, I'm not an expat myself, but for my studies, I've lived in different countries like South Africa and Colombia. That was a short introduction about me, but I'd also like to get to know you a little bit. So let me introduce the poll. Please feel free to answer the questions. Always interesting to see how you find us and what your decision is to buy. I'll give you a few seconds. I see rents are too high. I'd like to settle in the Netherlands. I'll be always glad to hear that you enjoy our country. All right. Thank you. That was helpful. All right. So what we'll be discussing today, first a short introduction. Then we're going to talk about the market and then some market drivers. Topic of savings, also very important to know what do you actually need in order to be able to buy a property. 3 tips to win the current market, and at the end we'll summarize everything by going over the entire timeline and how we as EHN can support you with that. First of all, we believe that greatness is achieved in the agency of others. So I work with an amazing team. What I said, my colleague Ludo, I think he's got stuck in the traffic, but he'll join in a bit. And he's the one who will be answering the questions during the webinar. He's also Dutch and responsible for the region of Amsterdam. And then we're lucky to work with our 2 Brazilian stars. Giovanna, she lives in Eindhoven. So she's responsible for the region of Eindhoven, the south of the Netherlands. And Rafaela, also from Brazil. She lives in Groningen. So she is responsible for the north. Oh. Short introduction about EHN. First of all, we are no traditional real estate agents. We support with buying, renting, and letting. Today's webinar is of course focused on buying, but if you're interested in any of the other services, feel free to reach out to us as well. Why are we no traditional real estate agents? We charge a percentage over the appraisal value as our fee, whereas other agents often use a percentage over the purchase price. Well, we said we do not want to give our clients the feeling that we just want the highest price so we can earn the most. So therefore, we use the appraisal value. So we really want the best deal for you. And as you could see, we're either expats ourselves or we've lived in different countries, so we know what it's like to settle in a new country. What is our added value? First of all, selling agents, they take our offers more seriously. They know we did our checks on our clients. We make sure everything is in the offer, what should be in the offer. And it is the case that selling agents prefer to work with buying agents and their colleagues. And because of our network, we are sometimes able to book viewings when for you guys it's no longer possible. Basically the same principle. Agents, they have special spots for their colleagues. Very important, we support by reviewing Dutch legal property documents. We call it the medical file of the property. Those documents can be very complex and difficult to read, and we'll make sure you know everything what you should know. Then, very important, we help to define the market value to market data, if not the most important part of the buying process. We'll talk about this a bit more into detail in a bit. And then we'll also inform about all the rules, regulations, and restrictions related to the property. Also very important to know before you submit an offer. And then last but not least, we'll make sure you don't make the same mistakes as we made. We've been doing this for a long time. We've purchased a lot of properties. We've seen almost everything, I would say. So with our expertise, we'd like to help you. Then I have another poll. I'm curious to see why you guys are in the process, so I can tailor the webinar a bit towards where you are in in the process. Oh, sorry for my voice. Let me see. Yes, here we go. Again, give you a few seconds to answer. If you are researching, well, hopefully you'll learn something today. Also, most of you did not talk to an agent, and some of you talked to a mortgage advisor. Well done. For those of you who did not talk to a mortgage advisor yet, and if you would like to, you can put your email address in the chat. Then I can send you the details of some advisors we have good experiences with. They're familiar with expats, so really helpful in the process. All right, thank you. Right, so let's talk about the market. So below you see a graph of the development of purchase prices or selling prices in the Netherlands. Of course, from 2008 till 2013, you'll see a decrease, right? It was the financial crisis. And basically from 2014 until last year, prices increased. And they increased significantly, especially the last year. So from 2020 till 2022, maybe around 20% per year, which was crazy, of course. But yeah, I'm sure all of you heard that the market is changing. So the last purchase or the average purchase price in Q4 last year was 407,000 euros, whereas Q1 this year this decreased to 394,000 euros. New builds properties are a bit more expensive than existing properties, and the average purchase price for a new build last quarter was 468,000 euros, and this also decreased a little bit. So if we zoom in on the Hague market, there's some interesting numbers and figures. First of all, 1,356 properties were sold, small decrease compared to the year before and compared to Q4 last year. Then we see an interesting one. For you guys as potential buyers, there's 1,850 properties on the market or were on the market last quarter. And that's an increase of 102% compared to the year before. So there's much more properties to choose from, which I think is a positive sign if you're considering buying a property. The average purchase price in The Hague was 388,000 euros, so a little bit below the average of the Netherlands. And you can see that prices decreased, right? So 13.5% compared to the year before and 7.4% compared to Q4 last year. And you'll see similar numbers with the price per square meter. Then the sales times, and this is also very interesting, is that the average or the sales time in Q1 was 48 days, whereas this used to be around 28, 29. So the process takes a bit longer. To give an example, let's see. You couldn't see my screen. Okay, sure, I'll go back first. Thank you for letting me know. I'll quickly go back to the previous slide. Oh. So what I said, below you'll see the graph, a decrease from 2007 till 2013, financial crisis. Then prices went up. Average purchase price Q1, 394 for existing properties, 468 for new build properties. And the average purchase price in Q4 last year was 407. Thank you for letting me know. Then what I said, we'll zoom in on the Hague figures or the Hague numbers. Houses sold, 1,356. Houses for sale last quarter, 1,850. So the increase of 100%. So double the properties on the market. So double properties to choose from. Purchase price decreased to 388,000 euros. The decrease, the numbers, you see similar numbers for the price per square meter. And then what I said, the sales time, so the process takes a bit longer. And to give you an example, around a year or year and a half ago, it was very common to have a deadline. So then there were so many people trying to get a viewing. They scheduled all the viewings, let's say this week, and then you had until Monday, 11 a.m. to submit your offer. Everyone could make one offer and the best offer won. And what you'll see now is that there's more negotiations. You're able to go for a second viewing, whereas this was really not possible before. So the market is a bit more healthy, I would say. Of course, something had to change because, yeah, the way it went in the past was just not healthy and not good at all. So if we're going to look at what the price, or what caused the price to increase, first of all, you have a few fiscal benefits. And the first one is the tax exemption. So if you buy a property, ownership is transferred from one person to another. And typically, if you're you have to pay transfer tax. And the transfer tax is 2% if you're going to live in the property yourself, and 10.4% if you buy a property as an investment. However, if you buy your first property in the Netherlands and you are below the age of 35, and the purchase price is below 440,000 euros, you're exempt from paying this 2% transfer tax. Then the other benefit, so the interest you pay on your mortgage is tax deductible. So this year, I think you can claim back 37% of the interest you pay. Then no capital gain. So a lot of people, they sold their property with a nice profit, and no taxes have to be paid over the profits. And this is for Dutch people. So in Dutch, we have a term called jubelton. What does it mean? Parents are able to donate money to their children if they're going to buy a property. Last year, this was around 100,000 euros without paying any tax. They lowered it to around 30K for this year, and it says ending since as of next year, this is no longer possible. Then the interest rates, I think we all know that the rates were extremely low last year, maybe around 1.5%. Of course, this increased, but yeah, money was almost for free. So yeah, very interesting, of course, to get a mortgage or a loan. Then for those of you who are renting at the moment, I think you can all confirm that the rents are super high. People were looking for alternatives. What is the alternative? To buy. So of course, a lot of people were interested in buying a property. And then last but not least, the most important factor is the lack of supply. So at the moment, we have a housing shortage in the Netherlands of 300,000 houses. Our government is working on it. They're trying to do their best to fix the gap. I think they're planning to build around 100,000 houses a year, up to 900,000 till 2030. But if you ask me, I'm not really sure whether this goal is achievable. But we'll see that in a bit. So, what is the current market like? What I said, interest rates were extremely low last year, and they increased and quite fast. I think at the moment the rates are slightly above the 4%, which is of course, what I said, a significant increase. But if you look at it from a historical perspective, it's still not that high. In the past, people bought properties with 8-9%, and they said, yeah, if you can have a rate of 4%, please fix it for 20 years because it will never get lower. We all know what happened, but it's not extremely high. Then in general, there's 80% more properties on the market. Well, we saw in The Hague, it's even more, right? It's more than 100%. So for you guys, what I said, good that there's more properties to choose from. And since the market cooled down a bit, it's also not as crazy as before in terms of overbidding. Doesn't mean that it's not happening anymore, but not as last year's. I'm quickly going to check if my colleague Ludo, yes, he's in the webinar. I'm quickly going to make sure he can answer your questions. Perfect. Then what I said, at the moment we have a shortage of 300,000 houses, right? And this problem won't be solved in a year or two. So they're planning to build a lot of properties, but with everything going on in the world right now, a lot of projects get delayed. Raw materials are super expensive. It's hard to find labor. So yeah, what I said, I don't think this will change anytime soon. So for you guys, I think the question is it still a good time to buy? If you ask me, something had to change, right? What I said, it was totally not healthy as it was, the market. But I don't foresee a major decrease in terms of value, just because the prices of properties, it's basically economics. Prices are defined by supply and demand, and there's just a super high demand for properties. Even though money is a bit more expensive, I don't foresee a major decrease. So if you're planning to stay for a few years, I would say it's definitely still a good time to buy a property. Then some other relevant topics I'd like to share with you. For those of you who are interested in buying a property as an investment, please be aware of the self-occupancy obligation that is applicable in The Hague. What does it mean? Properties with a WOZ value up to 405,000 euros, you can't, or it's very difficult to rent them out. Only under very strict conditions, as renting it out to your family or whatsoever. But in general, you can't rent them out. Then the NHG increased to 405,000 euros in 2023. What is NHG? It's an institute that helps you when you can no longer afford your mortgage. For example, when you lose your job or your partner dies, then NHG will look into your situation together with the bank to see if they can make your mortgage still affordable. If you have to sell your property with a loss, they might even cover the difference. And because of the support they give, right, there's less risk for a bank. So the bank is willing to give you a discount on your interest rate. So good to see that more people are able to make use of the NHG. And then, yeah, basically what I mentioned before is still a good time. The article I read recently states that the shortage will even increase to 400,000 houses in 2025. And yeah, what I said, prices are defined by supply and demand. There's just a super high demand for properties. So even though the market cooled down a little bit, I don't foresee a major decrease as we saw before in the financial crisis or during the financial crisis. Then saving. So how much would you actually need in order to be able to buy a property? We have this nice overview. First of all, the transfer tax. What I explained, if ownership is transferred from one person to another, transfer tax has to be paid, which is 2% if you're going to live in the property yourself. But of course, if you're below the age of 35, buy up to 440,000 euros and it's your first property, you're exempt from this transfer tax. Now, let's say you buy with a partner, you are 33 and your partner is 37. What does it mean? One of you has to pay the transfer tax. So then you pay 1% instead of the 2%. The notary fees, it depends a bit on the notary you'll choose. But typically, this will cost between 700 and 1,300 euros per deed. Good to know, everything in the buying process that is mortgage related is tax deductible. So the mortgage deed, yes, of course. Then in order to get a mortgage, you'll need to reach out to your bank or mortgage broker. The bank is a bit cheaper. However, I do always advise to at least talk to an independent mortgage advisor. Why is that? If you would reach out to your bank, they can offer you a few different types of mortgages. But if you reach out to an independent mortgage advisor, they can provide you with a mortgage from, let's say, 30 different banks. And every bank has its own policy and regulations. So in the end, the mortgage you find via a mortgage advisor better suit your profile. And it is also the case that the rates differ per week. So it's 1 week it might be that ABN has the best rate, and the next week ING. So even though it's a bit more expensive, I always say it's worth the additional 1,000 euros because what is 1,000 euros on 30 years? And again, for those of you who would like to get in touch with a mortgage advisor, please feel free to share your email in the chat. Then EHN will charge 0.75 or 1% over the appraisal value for our services. I will talk a bit more into detail about this in a bit. Then the appraiser, the bank wants to know what the actual market value is before they give you a loan. So you need to hire an appraiser, between 700 and 900 euros. The technical inspector, also very important, 465 euros. An interpreter, so when you go to the notary on the transfer date, for those of you who don't speak Dutch, it's legally obligated to have an interpreter there. So they make sure they will translate the deeds for you so you know what you'll sign. Then the bank guarantee. So one of the clauses of the purchase contract states that you'll need to provide a deposit or a bank guarantee or equal to 10% of the purchase price in order to make sure you fulfill your obligation. Typically this will cost 250 euros. And then NHG, what we just discussed, NHG, the institute that helps you when you can't afford your mortgage anymore. They'll charge 0.6% over the total mortgage amount. But since you get a discount on your interest rate, it's still beneficial to use. Then 3 tips to win the current market. And I've mentioned this in the beginning. It's very important to know the value of the property. And I think I can explain this best to you by giving you an example. So we have this property in The Hague, an asking price of 395,000 euros. Before we're going to submit an offer, we're going to do a price research. And with the price research, we can define the market value. We found out that the market value is 415,000 euros. Well, this is your dream property. You really would want to have it. So you said, okay, no risk. I'm going to offer 435,000 euros. What you'll hear is that you overbid by 10%, which is, of course, especially in this market on the high side, but it's an example. However, we say, no, the overbidding is not 10%, but 4.8%, because you offered 20K more than the market value, right? So not the 10, but 4.8. Let's say we have the same property, but a different agent or just a different asking price. So now the asking price is lower to 375,000 euros. It's the same property, so the market value is 415 and the purchase price remains the same. What you hear again is that you overbid by 16%. Again, we say no, you only overbid by 4.8%, 20K over the market value. Well, what I said, overbidding, it's not as common as before. So let's take another example with the other way around. So now the asking price, different property asking price, 455,000 euros. You say, okay, I don't want to overbid, so I'm just going to offer the asking price. But based on our price research, we found out that the market value is 425,000 euros. If you offered 450,000 euros and you thought, okay, I did not overbid, well, you're wrong, because you overbid actually 5.5% over the value. So what we would like to have, of course, is we have the same property, price research, we know the value, and we're able to buy on market value, no overbidding, 5.5% less than the asking price, but no savings needed. And the difficult thing about the current market is that sometimes a property is listed below the value, sometimes it's listed, a property is listed above the value. So there's really no general rule like you have to overbid by 5% or you have to offer 20K less. You have to look at the market value in order to define your offer and the amount you would like to offer. So very, very important to know this number or an indication before you submit an offer. Talking about an offers. What is a winning offer? A winning offer is a good price, but not always the highest price. So if we take the example I just gave you, right, the asking price 450, the value 425, but you offer 450 with 100% financial, with a financial clause of 100%. Yeah, then the sellers might think, oof, this is higher than the value, so they probably won't get their mortgage, right? So they'll choose for someone else. Security to the seller, very, very helpful and very important. Maybe you have savings that you're able to use in the process. Please indicate this, right, or inform them. Or if you work with a mortgage advisor, what I do very often is I ask for a statement to show them, hey, this is our capacity, we can offer, we can borrow this amount, so they know there's room, or they're not, that it's not likely that it will be rejected. Offer the least amount of hassle to the seller. So maybe the seller moved back to their home country and want to get rid of the furniture. It might be interesting for you guys to take over the furniture. Or maybe they bought a new build property that is only finished by the end of the year, and then be flexible with the transfer date, right? You can't demand them to move 3 times in a year. So yeah, offer the least amount of hassle. And then last but not least, a personal touch can really help in convincing the seller. Selling a property is always an emotional process, right? Memories are made in the house. So sellers often would like to know who's going to live in the property, if you're going to take care of the property. So it really helps if you can write a story about yourself, but also why you like the property. Add a picture so they have a bit of a feeling who you are. Then tip 3 is to do your due diligence. Very important in the buying process. In order to do so, we have two parties, the technical inspector and the appraiser. And my question to you guys is, do you book the technical inspector and the appraiser before or after the offer is accepted? You can write your answer in the chat. Oh, now I showed you the answer. I hope I was did not yeah. Still, please let me know after. I see after. Well, Marina thinks before. Well, I will just show it to you again. My presentation is not doing what I want today, but it's fine. Indeed, it's after your offer is accepted. Why is that? You would have to pay for the appraiser and the technical inspector. It would be a very costly process if we have to book them every time before submitting an offer. And between acceptance of the offer and signing the purchase contract, you have more or less 1.5 weeks. So I always say the best thing to do is to book them directly after your offer is accepted. So you have the results before you sign. What I said, normally this is around 10 days. And within those 10 days, you hire the inspector, right? If something is wrong with the property, this is the moment where you can renegotiate with the selling party. But also the market value, right? The appraisal. You would like to know exactly how much you can finance, so there's no surprises later on. If you've signed a purchase contract, good to know there's still a cooling off period. And within the cooling off period, which is 3 days, you can still dissolve the contract without paying a penalty. But if you would like to pull out after those 3 days, you have to pay a penalty equal to 10% of the purchase price. So obviously that's something you guys do not want to pay. So again, very important to book them as soon as possible, so you have all the results before you sign the contract or within the cooling off period. So yeah, there's no surprises afterwards. All right, there was a lot of information. What I said, what we're going to do is we're going to summarize everything from start till the end, and also explain how we as EHN can support you in the process. One tip I always give before you start looking for properties, please reach out to a bank or a financial advisor so you know what your budget is and how much you would like to spend on the mortgage. Every time I go to a bar or to the supermarket, I'm like, wow, is life that expensive at the moment? So you might not want to spend every single penny on your mortgage. But once it's clear, you can start looking for properties. Well, Funda, I think all of you know this website. It's the main platform. All the properties are listed on there. So if, let's say, you found something interesting, you can share the property with us and we can help you with booking the viewing and attend the viewing with you. And during the viewing, it is important to ask some critical questions to the selling agent, like what are the expectations of the sellers? Do you have any other offers in? But also to check the condition of the property, the building. However, what I always say, the most important thing is that you need to feel at home. I don't know if you guys done some viewings before, but what I see with my clients, often within a few minutes, they know whether it's a yes or a no. But if it's a yes and you do want to submit an offer, you come back to me, because the feeling itself is not enough, right? We have to look at the numbers and the documents. So before we submit an offer, we'll do a price research, right, in order to define the market value, and the property document review. And with the property document review, we'll basically check any documents related to the property. What I mentioned in the beginning, every property has its own rules, restrictions, regulations, and one from about those, but also if it's, for example, an apartment, we check if it's a healthy homeowners association, right? What maintenance has been done, what maintenance is planned, do they have enough savings in order to cover those costs? And then last but not least, from a construction perspective. So are there any issues with moisture, foundations, whatever, name it? If everything is fine, we discuss the researches, and based on that, we can draft the offer. Of course, we will submit the offer for you to the negotiations, and then hopefully we get the offer accepted. Once the offer is accepted, here they are, appraiser, technical inspector. We'll book them as soon as possible, so we have the results as soon as possible. If all good, we can sign the purchase contract. We will review the contract for you. We'll discuss it together with you. We'll translate it for you. Make sure that you're protected. All the clauses are there. And after the contract is signed, you can start your mortgage application. Depends a bit on the bank, on your mortgage advisor, but in general, this will take about 4 weeks. And once your mortgage has been approved, you're almost there. The final thing you have to do is to go to the notary and sign the mortgage and transfer deed. So this is the big day where you become the official owner of the property. You get the keys. But before we go to the notary, we go to the property once more to do a final inspection to see if the property is in the same condition as before. Let's say the current owners, they broke something with their goodbye party or with moving out. Yeah, that's something you don't want. So then we inform the notary about this, and they will keep a certain amount in their account in order to fix it. But if everything is fine, you can sign the deeds, and you are the proud owner of your new property in The Hague, maybe. I hope this was clear. About EHN, right? I've mentioned it before. We offer a few different packages. With the Smart package, we'll charge 0.75% over the appraisal value. With this package, we are more like an online consult. With the Complete package, we'll really guide you through every step of the process. So then we'll join you to all the appointments, like the viewings, notary, technical inspector, and so on. And for those of you who are interested in new build properties, we can also support you with that. That's a different service. And our fee is 3,450 euros. All right. Ludo, are there any questions left?
Well, thanks very much, Rick. Very informative. I don't see any questions currently in the Q&A. It might be that I joined a little bit later, that I'm missing out on some. Maybe you can double check for me. But I think otherwise you were very, very clear.
I see 2 questions open.
Perfect.
One of it was about the presentation. Sorry for that. Then a question: do expats under 35 get the 2% transfer tax exemption? Yes. So this is applicable to everyone, not only to Dutch people, but also for expats.
Perfect. Cool. I have another question come in. Can you tell me what the appraisal value actually is?
Yeah, good question. The terms are used in many ways. So the appraisal value is the market value. So the appraiser is someone that goes to your property, will do kind of an inspection, take some pictures, and they will define the actual market value that you'll need to share with the bank in order to apply for a mortgage.
Okay. cool. I have a question from Sadia. What if you don't want to overbid? I think you just stay in the queue then. Is that correct?
If you don't want, yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to overbid. So what I said, the market has been cooling down, so it's definitely possible to finance 100% with your mortgage, so you don't need any savings. But I think you can confirm as well. We also have cases where you buy even under, or the purchase price is lower than the actual value. So it's not the case that you always have to overbid.
Exactly. And then talking about the appraisal value, would you say that this is similar to the WOZ value?
No. So good to know that this is a complete different value. The WOZ value is a value the municipality uses in order to define, for example, your property tax. And this is calculated by a computer. So they just look at the sales in the area, and then they have a number and they multiply it by, I don't know, the square meters you have, but they don't look whether you renovated your kitchen or your bathroom or what the state of the building is. So it's really not the same as the market value.
No, maybe good to mention also is that it's always old data as well. So the current WZ value that we use for the taxes this year is based on the WZ or on the year of 2022 with data from 2021. So you can imagine that is not in line anymore with the current market value. Okay. Another question from Natalia. After how many years is it possible to rent out the house or the property?
Good question. So the sub-occupancy obligation, what I was talking about, this differs per municipality. For example, in Amsterdam, after you've lived in the property for 4 years, you're able to rent it out. But in The Hague, there's not such a thing. So it's not that after 4 years you can rent it out. It really, they look at the WOZ value, and if your property is below the 405, it's not possible.
Exactly. Okay. Then a question from an anonymous attendee. According to your experience, Rick, what is the main driver of a seller's decision? Would that be reliability, if they're paying with cash, the highest price, combination of all three?
Yeah, of course. First, they look at the price, right? However, if someone has a lot of conditions, right, 100% financing conditions, so financial clause, and the number two is very close and doesn't have this or doesn't need a mortgage of 100%, right? They have savings, then it might be the case that they choose for the number two. Not if there's a big difference, but if it's close, then probably they'll go for security. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, cool. A question from Victoria. How does it work now for Ukrainian people if they would like to purchase a property? And is there any difference?
Yeah, no, luckily there's no difference. So also for Ukrainian people, it is possible to buy a property. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no discrimination there whatsoever. If you're from Ukraine or from Belgium or from the Netherlands or from wherever, you're always able to purchase a property. Okay, do we have to pay this amount after we sign the contract or of purchasing? I think this person is talking about the our fees. When are our fees due?
Yeah, good question. So we work with a no cure, no pay policy. So we do require a small deposit of 500 euros to start the process. But the rest of the amount is only paid if we buy a property together. And I can go back to the timeline. So around a week or two before the actual transfer, you'll receive a statement of completion from the notary. Basically, that's an invoice with all the costs you have to pay. So the purchase price, notary fees, your mortgage advisor, our fee. then you will pay everything at once to the notary, and then the notary will make sure that everyone gets their share.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Can you share some info about a homeowners association in the Netherlands?
Yeah, good question. So if you buy an apartment, of course you do not own every brick of the property. So in order to maintain the building, there is a homeowners association, and you would have to pay service fees, right? The painting, the elevators, all the costs are split by all the members of the association. And what is very important to check is it a healthy association? So what maintenance has been done? Is there a lot of overdue maintenance? Do they have a maintenance plan? And then very important to check, do they have enough savings in order to cover those costs? Expected that you as a member need to pay additional fees in order to make sure the maintenance will be done.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Question from anonymous attendee. In the current market, would it be better to purchase a property to search for a house with a lower energy label and improve it, or look for a property that already has a high energy label?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So what you'll see a lot is that people are going crazy about energy labels. But I always warn my clients, like, you shouldn't pay too much just for the label, right? If you're paying double the price for a property with a A label, is it still beneficial for you, right? So of course it is important, right? It's nice to have a good label so you'll save on your utility costs. But I wouldn't pay too much just for a good label. And indeed, it could be that if you buy a cheaper property with a lower label and you invest in insulation, solar panels, you can increase this to a better label. So I think there's no general thing like you should go for a lower label or for a better label. This really depends on the pricing per property. But I do want to say, please do not go crazy just about the label. Also check the alternatives.
Yeah, of course, indeed. Okay. Then a question from Ronnie. If I'm bidding on a property and I will get the property, like get the offer accepted, is that bid binding then, or not, since I'm able to make multiple offers?
Yeah, good question. So what I've mentioned before, you can sign the purchase contract, and then even then you'll still have 3 days in order to dissolve. So submitting an offer itself, it is not legally binding. Only after you've signed the purchase contract and the cooling off period is over, then you're binded.
Yeah, exactly. Good to mention those. We never really advise you to make offers on multiple properties at the same time to prevent from having to pull out from offers. It is, of course, a situation where you're buying someone's property, that seller is excited about being to sell to you, and then having to pull out afterwards is something we want to prevent in general. Just like you wouldn't want a seller to pull out, a seller doesn't want you to pull out. So we prefer to make an offer on one property that you truly love. If that doesn't get accepted, then we move on to the next property. Only in cases where we're really forced to make an offer on 2 properties at the same time, we'll do so. But otherwise, something we want to avoid.
Yeah.
Rick, can you tell us what happens with a mortgage after you sell a property?
When you sell a property, then probably your mortgage will be paid off, so to say, and then it will be deregistered from the land registry.
Yeah, that's it really indeed.
Basically it, yeah.
You give the bank the right of mortgage, and that pretty much means that if you sell your property, any money that comes out of the sale first goes to the mortgage lender. So they have the first right to get money pretty much. Once you've paid off your mortgage, then the bank doesn't really have any ties with you anymore, and mortgage is paid off. If you have made any money on top of it, fantastic. You can put it in your pocket, no capital gains. That is it. Yeah. Okay. Then can you tell us a little bit on how the new sustainable regulations are impacting the market?
Yeah, good question. So actually today I was at a viewing at an apartment, and indeed the municipality said that this area had to get rid of gas, right? And this requires quite some investment for the association. What you saw is that the service fees probably will increase significantly because they did not have the savings. But again, this differs per property, right? So it could be some associations are very well prepared for the regulations, and they do save already for the regulations or the things they have to do in the coming years, whereas others do not. So this is also something I would really check. If you buy a house, then you have more influence on this, and you can of course already check what has been done, whether you meet those requirements.
Yeah, cool. All right, and final question: are there any areas in Den Haag which you would not recommend to buy property?
No, in general, I always say the Netherlands is a very safe country. For those of you, I don't know where you're from, but in general, it's a safe country. And what I always advise is if you have the time during the weekend, just go to The Hague, especially when it's sunny, walk around, explore the city, and see what you like and what you don't like. There's not really a place where I would say I would never buy there. It depends on your budget. It depends on what you're looking for. So yeah, that is something personal, I would say, but there's no area where I would say a no-go.
Yeah, there are so many variables there.
Yeah,
it's difficult to pinpoint. If you per se want to have a school in a 5 kilometer radius, then there might be some areas that you shouldn't buy, but that might be very different to someone that per se wants to have a bar in 5 kilometers area. So that is something we can dive in deeper when having a personal conversation, I think. Let me see. Oh, I got one last question from Adrian. Is it possible to sell the property, for example, after 2 years, and the amount of interest I paid to the bank is low, for example? Would that be a problem? Do I have to pay any specific amount of money to be able to just pay the rest of money and finish the loan? Is there like a penalty or anything like that?
Yeah, so you can just pay, sell your property and pay off your mortgage without any penalties.
Yeah. So, of course, the bank would like to have you pay off in a full 30 years so that they get the most amount of interest. But if you decide to sell after 2 years, then you can sell after 2 years. It's like this. The only requirement you have to sell your property is that you have ownership over a property. So if you buy something today, get ownership today, in theory, you could put the property on the market again tomorrow. Wouldn't be the smartest move, as of course you've had all these buyer costs that came into play. But technically speaking, it could be possible. Okay, all right. Well, that is it. Thanks very, very much, Rick.
Yes, thank you for supporting me with the questions. Yeah, good luck with your search for a property. For those of you who are interested in an intake with us, you can go to our website, and I'm curious to hear about your personal situation.
Perfect.
Have a nice evening, and hope to talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.